So, a 3.5 pound plate is going to be compared to this 2.5 pound, and we start with a disaster. Keep your foot off the pedal. I'm just reminding myself of the measurement of this small plate, and we're going to compare that later to how big the 3.5 pound goes. The big dent in this prepared lump shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm just going to go ahead with it. I centered the lump so that we don't have to have a video of me centering every single time. And so the centering for this goes in the standard way. There's not really anything particularly different about it, but I think in this case I'm just going to try and work out that big gash. It's a little bit wobbly, but it seemed like it was going to be okay. And so there isn't much different about making a plate from 3.5 pounds than we saw at the 2.5 pound level, but there are a few things that I'll point out along the way that will make things helpful. A lot of the plate distance is taken up by the flat, fleshy part here of my hand, and that first gesture is going to be straight downward from the ceiling. That thing I pointed to on my left wrist was how I hold the edge under compression while the top is being squashed flat. So an early problem with trying to make plates in this way is that you do make it shorter. That's part of what you want, but that the top edge of that thing folds over and becomes weak. And so that's the job of the heel of the left hand, or the incoming side. And that swiping gesture is what the right hand is going to do as it starts from the center and pulls the clay gradually out a little bit flatter along the wheelhead. You see that I leave an obvious edge here at the rim. That's going to be the design of the plate rim. And so the rest of this for a few minutes is going to be different ways to deal with the flattening gesture that we have inside. When you use a sponge, you have extra water there, and you only want the dent of the sponge to be pretty shallow. In a moment we'll see what the mistake can be at that point there where I'm showing you. That edge can become a little bit too sharp and can make a problem for itself. And so this shaping move goes from the center out toward where you have the rim, and I would just stop before you actually thin out the rim, because then you don't have anything left over for the plate rim. Here is another way that doesn't use a sponge, that does use your fingerprints, and when you have larger amounts of clay like this, you just want to go gradual and be patient. This move has gone pretty easily out from the center toward the rim, but depending on how much practice you have a few stops and starts. You may be adding ridges, you may be going up into the air or going down toward the wheelhead, and you're just going to notice that after a while. Here is the mistake. You don't want that. That edge is going to become very strange. You might want it in the middle of a saucer, for example, or if you're making a plate that's got some kind of ridge feature to it. But in general, you want it to go like this instead. You want a very gradual move. And so the thinning each time is maybe 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Here's another look at the compressing move that uses your hands a bit differently. You may have a bit more leverage this way by pulling your thumb flat towards you, a little bit off to the left. That can also help. And here I am going back to the big, wide presentation with the flat of my hand, the right hand. And the knuckle of the hand starts in the center, and it just gradually moves out, and I pull towards me. Well, here you see just about the full width that I'm planning on getting this disc. And I'm fussing a bit with the surface of the clay here, but I don't do all the fussing yet, because when the walls don't exist yet, I'm not quite sure what I want that transition to be. And here you can see how close the edge of the clay is to the edge of the bat. This can be a convenient measuring way for you to keep track of what you're doing. Otherwise, if you want something a little more quantitative, obviously, you can use a ruler. Those marks earlier were for a 2.5 pound bowl, and now I'm making a plate, and now I'm making the mark for the disc for the 3.5 pound plate. which I would imagine when it shrinks down is going to be a little bit more like a serving platter. So I used the sponge here to build the wall up on itself and move it up into space so that I can get on both sides of it. I use the sponge here because it adds water and it keeps you from making fingerprints, and also because I hold my hand at a lower angle, I tend not to shave off my fingernail from the bat. And so I'm using the sponge on the inside and the fingers on the outside to do a normal pull now. This is just like you might be doing in other shapes, but because the diameter is so great and because you have so much rim going around, you want to go pretty gradually at this point. And my suggestion is to imagine what you want the future bowl to be, but throw this wall a little bit taller than that and a little bit more straight-sided than that, so that the wheel doesn't help you too much and make it flatten out in a way you don't like. Here we're seeing the wooden rib. I'm taking a little bit more time with the shape of the plate, because now since I have the walls there, I kind of know what it is that I want. And here, there's another perfectly straightforward pull, sponge on the inside and fingers on the outside, and it just goes really gradually up towards the rim. I think for strength, the rim can be a little bit thicker and still be okay. Also, I think it's a little bit more stable on really wide forms. Now this that I like to do with a wooden tool isn't very important, other than when you go and try and trim. I'm having a little bit of trouble fitting it in with the splash pan, so I have to move the splash pan. So later, when this gets trimmed, you're going to have to turn it over and make a little groove there, depending on your design and depending on what your teachers have told you. But I use that wooden tool down there just to make whatever's down there a little bit tidier. It'll make trimming easier. There still needs to be trimming, but if it's tidier, the beginning part is easier. So here's the last bit of shaping that I'm going to do to this platter. I use the flexible red rib and go from the center out toward the wall, and then change the wall at that transition place where it goes to the floor. This is a pretty gentle move and nothing too abrupt. I'm sorry, my hand is in the way, I didn't realize. But it's over now. And so there isn't much going on here extra. The measurement here compares the earlier 2.5 pound plate to this 3.5 pound. And I think that it's a good bit larger. So the wire going underneath pulls an inch in from the edge, and you rotate that to make sure that it goes all the way through, and then pull the wire towards you. I think this makes it easier. And so that's it for the 3.5 pound platter.